I just want to say a few things about the phone call that I got last night it was kind of not a phone call, it was more of I was speaking into a microphone and sending lots of microphone clips, and he was doing the same, but because of this backlog of stuff that he was saying versus I was saying, we were probably both kind of all over the place with our conversation because I was listening to things, pausing it, saying something, listening to more things, saying it, and then listening to the next one. And I don't know, it wasn't very flowing. But I know that there might be a lot of people who know about me who are watching my videos and might want to have a conversation, and you might not want me to say kind of negative things, or if I, if I have a conversation and things anger me, there are a lot of things in the conversation that we had that angered me. I think he noticed. They definitely noticed because he thought my tone wasn't very well. And then after talking about for an hour and a half, I think I did loosen up my tone. But the reason why I loosened up my tone was because I kind of accepted that this guy wasn't actually listening to anything that I was saying, and I don't think he knew that was the reason why I was getting less angry. I was kind of just accepting that this guy hadn't actually, because I was angry because he started off the conversation about how he's been following my videos, he's watching, but yeah, he doesn't believe in the God that I believe in. He doesn't really know. And then he started talking about like science and how he always he's genetic, into like a genetic scientist who works with building up of electrical energy, making free energy out of I don't know, but he sounded very, it sounded very mathematical, and like he was quite an intelligent person, and then he would kind of make himself seem very like he knew what he was talking about, and this is annoying for me because I have been preaching that I'm God for 12 years, and I really want to talk to scientists, like real scientists who actually take lots of facts, lots of interest in getting to know different views, and it would be, even if you're just like a religious scientist or a religious researcher or something, I would love to talk to these people because I have these beliefs, and I know that thousands of people, I've got also a belief that thousands of people know about me and are doing things about me behind my back with the songs and with everything, and so on one hand it was like, this is everything I want. I want to talk to someone who's like who claims to want to research, who claims to take an interest. Not even I can't even get people to take an interest in what I'm saying. That's how bad it has been for me in the last 12 years. I don't know what people are. I think they're robots. I think they're mechanically programmed to just ignore me if they hear me or forget everything I say. And during the conversation, he it was clear that every time I sent him a picture, oh, I'm not going to read that. I would send him 5 or 6 pictures, maybe with the angel names, and I was trying to prove how I can I can birth the angels at specific times, specific days, and have all their hidden names sort of joined. So if they're born on this day, or if two or three angels are born on this day, and they have this hidden name of this, it can say this, and if it's on this day, and I tried to briefly explain that, and I felt like a lot of times he kept brushing off. I don't have time to read that. I'll read that later. He didn't actually contact me last night. I don't know if he read that. He might be watching my videos. He might have seen the mild insults that I had towards him about not being a bit frustrated over not understanding why it's annoying to have someone say, oh, I've been following you for 3 years, but I don't see it, I don't believe in your God, but I'm happy to talk to you about it. On one hand it's like, oh wow, I want you to talk about it, great, but on the other hand it's like, but you're saying, you've done lots of research, and yet you don't even want to go on my Facebook page. I believe that I'm God because I'm having some sort of time traveling conversation with something that is my higher self, and it seems to live inside my brain because it tells me a couple of words, or gets me to do certain things, click on certain videos, or makes certain videos seem more appealing to touch or interesting. And the pictures often relate to the conversation that I have. If I have a conversation, sometimes I look at the picture and I think that's a perfect picture for what I've just said, and that something is doing this, something is living inside the internet and is doing this, and all the proof of this is on my Facebook page. When I go to make these videos, I'm just giving a kind of like a brief summary because I feel like I've got so much to say and I hate typing, and I know there is like a microphone button on my phone, but I keep forgetting to use it, and my spelling isn't terrible, so I like to go to YouTube just to kind of talk about it. But yeah, if you're only basing your beliefs or your view on my beliefs based on YouTube, you would just see someone who's just talking and not really saying stuff. I mean, but I'm telling people to go to my Facebook page and see the conversations that I'm having, and he wouldn't do that. He doesn't like the idea of Mark Zuckerberg getting hold of his information. I don't know why. What information? Your email. You don't want him to have your email. You don't have to put a picture on Facebook. You don't have to do anything. You just need an email and a password, and that's all you need. And so I don't understand people who use the excuse of, oh, I don't want to go on Facebook. It's not for me or something. If you really had interest in wanting to know my beliefs, you would go onto my Facebook page, because on the pictures, you could actually see the images of if you're watching these videos, these YouTube videos, you probably won't know who Darla is, because I talk about her a lot, but if you have no interest in what I'm actually saying, he didn't know anything. That's the thing. He said that he knows a lot about me and I know nothing about him, so he tried to make quite a lot of conversation about himself, and it was interesting. He did say some interesting things. It was interesting how he might have helped start up the full moon parties, which I love. It's interesting things he said about Thailand and how dangerous it was. I didn't know how dangerous it was until I started to realize that actually quite a lot of people did die on the island, and I did keep hearing more and more stories as I was there. So I went back to Bangkok and pretty much stayed. I was there for 3 months on one of my trips, and I stayed in the island for a couple of while, and I realised how dangerous it kind of was. So I spent the rest of the time in Bangkok, but yeah, we had a lot to say, and I don't want to insult him for him, but I just if I talk to people about my beliefs, I want them to actually be interested in things that I say. And I felt like, and this is what I'm saying for people who want to have an interview with me and actually believe that I'm God. If you're just saying lots of statements that I don't believe are true, but you're also making the statements that you know what I believe, it's almost like you don't know what I believe. He didn't know that I believed really in reincarnation. He didn't seem to know who Darla was. He thought, you're gods, you created the universe. I never said that I created the universe. If you look on my Facebook page and look at actually my book, it actually says The Matrix. I did not make it. I've got specific pages on that which says how I believe AI or artificial intelligence kind of created rocks and planets and galaxies and bugs, and then the bugs had a sort of soul and wanted to kind of continue being alive, so kept jumping from body to body, and then this evolution turned into lots of other different animals, lizards particularly, and then dinosaurs. And then if you go on my Facebook page and look at the pictures, read the pictures, you can see a clear view of what my beliefs are. And it almost felt like he was kind of wanting to be like, oh yeah, I know all about you, and yet he didn't know anything. He thought that the Illuminati were not on my side and that they were evil. He insulted the royal family, even though I believe that I'm God and I can control souls. And I was trying to tell him that, that was why I showed him that the images of the angel names and, the days they were born. Not only have I controlled which souls, because I believe the souls were reincarnated. He didn't seem to know that. He didn't seem to know anything. He was claiming that he knew a lot about my beliefs, but he didn't see any sort of real reason to believe in them. But at the same time, he was also somewhere at a point in the conversation, he kind of also revealed to me that he hasn't actually watched my videos in over a year, and that was when I started to not be angry, because I was like, okay, yeah. You haven't been following me for 3 years. You found me a couple of years ago when I was doing massage, and you wanted to come, and then I stopped doing it for 2 years, and you just happened to come across one of my videos where I said that I saw a client, and you've kind of thought now's a good time to contact you, not because I believe in your... if you believed in my religion and you've known about me for 3 years, surely you would have seen enough information in the videos that I'm saying to go onto my Facebook to see what it is that I'm actually believing. And I don't think he kind of thought Elon Musk was a robot and Mark Zuckerberg was not someone you could trust, and that there is this big death cult. And I'm just like, do you not realize that I actually support this death cult? There's way too many people in this world. A huge number of people have only had one life as a human, and these are the humans that are going to be more corrupted and more animal-like because they're still thinking how they were thinking when they were an animal. And with the population getting bigger and bigger, more of these first-timer humans are going to be around. This is why the growth in Islam is happening. I believe that people who live in, in people who are Islamic, not all of them, but they're between like life 1 versus life 4. Like that's kind of the sort of range. If you sort of get brainwashed into believing Islam, you might continue believing it through your next couple of lives, but eventually, you're going to be female, and you're going to get a lot of. You're not going to like walking around with some sort of veil, feeling like you can't expose yourself, and you have to just you're going to end up in that situation, whether it be on your second life or on your third life. It will happen, and you're not going to. That's when you start really being like, I hate this. I hate this religion. And it's just strange how he didn't know anything about my religion, because he was trying to ask questions. I like that. I like people when they ask questions. So I was trying to be like, okay, he's asking me questions, but he was asking me either so many questions that I found that I couldn't actually answer it because I was trying to go through all the questions, and then I was also kind of curious because I told him that there's going to be some sort of belief where people believe that there's going to be a false belief that souls have come from a different planet and they've just been born here, but if they do A, B and C and die, their soul will go back to another planet, but really the whole thing's fake. I'm pretty sure I said somewhere in that line that, but a couple of posts downwards, he actually said that he himself believed that he was from another planet and that he came through here through some sort of spiritual system, and he's never had another life on Earth, and that he has and then I was just like, do you not understand? I was saying that this is fake. I was saying that this is a fake religion, and this is the starseed religion, and it's going to kill people, and you just stated in one of your comments that that you think that you were born on another planet, and then I'm just like, I don't think this guy has any interest in what I'm saying, because he's not listening to what I'm saying. I tell him that there's going to be a fake, because he asked me how are we going to get rid of Islam, and I think it's not just Islam that it's going to Islam and Christianity. I don't really know the details about Islam because it's just an inversion of everything I am, but I feel like Christianity is the best way, because that gives people choice on. You say I'm the sacrifice, you put me through torture, and you convince people that they can get into the other worlds, and it's all fake. But yeah, he posted, why would you? He's posted some sort of voice chat. Why would you want to be tortured? Oh, you don't want to be tortured, my love. And it's just, I'm not saying I'm going to be tortured. You're not listening to anything that I say. And so I just kind of stopped talking to him halfway through, and not often, but a couple of times he kept going back to this massage, saying that it's £90 for an hour and a half for 2 hours, and I was like, no, I don't really want to do it. I'm doing this purely for money, and because I'm running out of fundings if I did it, and therefore I'd have to charge 110 for 2 hours, so 60 for an hour, 110. But I'm not advertising. I'm not doing this. But I need money because I want to go on holiday this winter, and anyway, we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll get PIP. If I get PIP, then I don't need to go back to massage. So I might have an assessment to see if I can get that. But yeah, I don't want to go back to massage. And quite a few times I told him that this. And then he was just like, oh, I bet you get all sorts of clients, and almost implying or talking about how I'm still doing it, and I've been doing it for the last 2 years, and that wanting to talk about how weirdos I get and stuff. And I was just like, are you not listening to me? I said I haven't done it for 2 years. I haven't seen anyone for 2 years. I want to forget about this, and And yeah, I also said I don't do hand relief renderings really clearly, and then he started going on a big conversation about all the girls that he used to date and how hot he was back then, and I just like, yeah, I'm not having any kind of real conversation here. So my tone softened, but he was actually kind of like, oh, I like how you're not sounding angry any longer. And it's just like, yeah, I'm not sounding angry any longer because I've just accepted that you're not listening to anything that I'm saying, and you're just going to brush me off right now. Oh, I can't bother to read all that, even though I've just said that I've got proof that I'm kind of controlling the birth dates of these people. And then still he goes on about how the royals are a corrupt bloodline, and they shouldn't they shouldn't be in power, and we need to get the monarchy out and stuff like that. And it's just like, yeah, you really don't know anything about my beliefs at all, because I believe my high self can control souls in the monarchies, and therefore I'm not necessarily against the monarchies. If you have a bad monarch, it's a reflection on how bad the rich people are in your country. And I guess if my higher self wants to kill a lot of people, she would put a monarch in charge that can kind of work this, in the past, like all the Henry VIII's and stuff, there was probably a lot of bad monarchs in the past, but I would have looked to see the rich people in society, and I would have created a monarch that was kind of similar to them. If they are bad people, well, that's just how it is. A lot of bad people have become bad people because of horrible things that have happened to them in their past life. If you start beating up the poor people, eventually some of these poor people are going to become wealthy one day. They might inherit stuff, or they might commit a crime and become wealthy, but maybe they still remember all the bad treatment that they went through, and therefore they are nasty or want to if people hurt you, you kind of there's a national instinct to want to hurt others just because you've been so hurt, and you can't just say, oh, they're a bad person. Sometimes they're a bad person because bad people have done things to them, and they just want revenge so that this doesn't happen to them again, or doesn't happen to others, doesn't happen to their kids, and they don't have to live in fear and stuff. So this is why wars happen. When people start fearing too many people, sometimes you want to eliminate the threat, and it does kill people. But by having less people, you feel like there's less competition for the things that you need, the resources and whatever you need. So it's a big complicated mess, and I he was trying to make out that he was a scientist and very smart, but his belief on fears and stuff were more about the genetics and genes. And I care about genetics and genes. I just don't know anything about how similar it is. I know that there are some animals where you can teach the parents how to do things, and even if the children never meet or get taught how to do those certain things, they can actually pick up on a similar kind of stuff. So I'm sure I saw some video where they were teaching an animal to do to do something, and then they took the child of that one and taught it to do the same thing, and they said it picked it up a lot quicker. Is that a real test, or was that just you've just chosen a soul that has a little bit more intelligence, because maybe the mother cat or whatever it was became more intelligent because of all the things that you were teaching it, and then when it had a child, the Matrix found a more intelligent soul to put into the child. And there's a spiritual aspect and a genealogical aspect. So what is genes and what is spiritual? If you've made a cat incredibly intelligent for all the other cat compared to all the other cats, you might find that its children are also more intelligent. But is this through genes and the cats like picking up on the biological DNA of it and getting and picking up intelligence through biological means? Or is it just that the Matrix has recognized that this cat is now a bit more smarter than all the other cats, and therefore has tried to find a soul that's still sort of worthy of being a cat, but also an intelligent cat? If one cat can open a door and all the others can't, and it has a kid, would that kid also be able to open the door? You could argue, if you're a genetic person and you study genes and stuff, you could argue on one hand that The only reason why it learned how to do that is because of the biological genes that its mother had. Or on the spiritual side, you could say that actually the Matrix recognized that that cat was smarter than all the others because it could open the door, and it just gave a soul into that kitten that cat had, as a slightly more evolved soul, maybe a soul that has been a cat a couple of times before, but still needs to be a cat because it hasn't evolved to the next stage, hasn't evolved to a sort of dog stage. I think are dogs more intelligent than cats? I don't actually even know if dogs are more intelligent than cats. So it's probably debatable, but it would choose a soul that's slightly more intelligent if the cat is more intelligent, but you could argue it's genes, or maybe it was the spiritual side. Now, I didn't like how this guy kind of was trying to tell me stuff, but he was saying like, this is facts. It's facts that the genes pick up knowledge through the genes. And I would have said, no, it's not fact, because maybe it's done it through a spiritual means, or if you have a fear of cats, and your great auntie also had a fear of cats, how do you know that your auntie hasn't just died and been reincarnated as like a soul in a body, and she also has this fear of cats, not because it's been passed down through the DNA in the bloodline, but rather because it's the same soul that's just been reincarnated? How do you know that isn't the case? I think in the past, a long time during the timeline, there would have been large gaps in between all the different people. But right now, in this age, because the population is so big, the gaps are far more narrow. Like the Matrix is constantly trying to pick up on the intelligent souls and rebirth them, and there might even be 1 or 2 years, or even less. It might be straight away. If you die, you might come back a couple of months later. It could be as narrow as that, because the population is so big that the Matrix is constantly trying to find intelligent souls. And I think this could be why more people are born with brain damage, or there might be a high ratio of defect fetuses, because the Matrix can't find enough intelligent souls, so has to find less intelligent souls, but the body doesn't quite fit. So maybe this is the reason why the genetic problems happen in fetuses. I don't know, but I didn't like how he didn't seem to respect, or actually he didn't seem to be interested in my views. If he was interested in my views, he would say, these are my views. I believe that you can pick up on traits that, like, say, if you have a phobia or something, it can be passed down through the bloodline. What is your view? But he wasn't like that. He was like trying to tell me facts, and then just assume that he's giving me knowledge, rather than say, these are my beliefs, what do you think? This is what a scientist does. These are what I've done lots of research into genetic programming and stuff, and these are my thoughts. Now what are your thoughts? You think you're God, so tell me what your thoughts are, because I'm interested to know. And I felt like he didn't care about my views, like he was mostly just interested in a massage. And he knew that I needed money, and he was happy to come and talk to me about my beliefs. But of course, if I was going to give you money, I'll have a massage as well. So like, my only value was that of a masseuse. That's how he made me feel. My only value was really that of a masseuse, and these sort of crazy ideas that I have in my head. I think he did actually say silly things in my head, and I thought that was that little word. He was trying to be jokey and like pappy about it, but at the same time, it's just like, yeah, no, I have some very serious beliefs. I don't really like how you're talking to me, because you're not asking me any questions. You kind of keep thinking that you're giving me knowledge, rather than asking what my views are on the knowledge that you are giving me. And maybe the knowledge that you're giving me is not analyzed correctly, because maybe you don't know anything about reincarnation, or you don't even know that I believe in reincarnation. Like, he didn't seem to know who Darla was, so I don't know. I don't know how you could say you've been watching my videos for 3 years and yet have no clue who Darla is. I mean, maybe because in the videos you just try and see just me talking about all sorts of things, my daily life a lot of the time, or maybe it's something else.